The blade was cold against her thigh. Cecilia's heartbeat thundered in her ears as she crossed the threshold into the Alpha King's chamber. Silver-lace steel hidden beneath silk that clung to every curve. 3 years of training. 6 months of preparation. 1 mission. Kill Maverick Lozano before dawn. The room was dark, lit only by dying embers in the hearth. Then he moved. A shadow separating from shadows, all predatory grace and lethal power. Amber eyes caught the firelight, pinning her where she stood. Her wolf stirred, then screamed. Mine. Mine. Mate. No. No, this wasn't possible. Not him. Not the monster she'd been sent to destroy. Come closer. His voice rolled through the darkness like distant thunder, wrapped in smoke and danger. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her traitorous body obeyed, drawn forward by something ancient and absolute. Her fingers trembled toward the hidden blade. 1 strike. That's all it would take. She'd trained for this, dreamed of this, avenging the innocent he'd slaughtered, proving herself worthy to the pack that raised her from nothing. But as Maverick's heat wrapped around her, his scent flooding her senses, wild pine and winter storms, and something that made her wolf purr, the blade slipped from her numb fingers. His eyes tracked the movement. A predator's smile curved his lips. Now, he murmured, stepping closer, shall we discuss why you really came to my chamber, little wolf? Because we both know you're no pleasure companion. Her world tilted. He knew. And she was already burning alive. Before we continue, hit like and subscribe. Trust me, this story only gets better. Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far Cecilia and Maverick's story travels. Now, let's get into it. Chapter 1. 6 months earlier. The training ground had been slick with blood. Cecilia wiped the crimson from her blade, breathing hard as the 3rd male wolf hit the dirt. Around her, the Moonstone pack watched in silence. Kamari Rivera stood at the edge of the circle, arms crossed, face carved from stone. Again, Kamari said. Cecilia's muscles screamed. She'd been fighting for 2 hours straight. But she rose, because Kamari never asked twice. Because 16 years ago, Kamari had saved her life, and Cecilia would spend eternity repaying that debt. The memory came unbidden. 8 years old, cowering in the hollow of a burned tree while rogue wolves circled. Her parents' bodies still warm in the ashes behind her, the rogue's breath hot on her face, jaws opening wide. Then Kamari, descending like vengeance itself, swift, brutal, merciful only to the child trembling in the dark. You're safe now, Kamari had whispered, lifting her from the blood-soaked ground. You're mine now. Cecilia shook off the memory and faced her next opponent. Charles Tapia grinned, confident despite watching her dismantle the others. He lunged. She sidestepped, drove her elbow into his kidney, swept his legs. He went down hard. The watching wolves murmured approval. Kamari's expression didn't change. Adequate, she said, which from Kamari was high praise. Come, we have matters to discuss. In Kamari's private chamber, maps covered every surface. Red marks indicated territories lost, villages burned, all attributed to one name. Maverick Lozano. Kamari's voice was ice. The Alpha King has slaughtered his way across 3 territories in 2 years. He burns villages with families still inside. His wolves show no mercy. Not to women, not to children, not to elders who beg for clemency. Cecilia's hands clenched. She'd heard the stories. Survivors who'd escaped spoke of smoke and screams, of the massive silver-black wolf who led the massacres with amber eyes that glowed like hellfire. Someone has to stop him, Cecilia said quietly, Yes. Kamari's gaze was calculating. Someone willing to sacrifice everything. Someone he won't suspect until it's too late. Understanding dawned slowly. Then all at once. You want me to kill an Alpha King? I want you to save hundreds of innocents from his next rampage. Kamari moved closer, her presence heavy with authority. The Alpha King is a plague, Cecilia. You will be the cure. I'll do it. The words came without hesitation. Tell me what you need. I need you to get close to him. Make him want you. Crave you. Then, when his guard is down, you end him. Kamari's smile was cold. Can you do this? You saved me. I owe you everything. Then prove it. Outside, Milo Mendez was waiting, his expression somewhere between admiration and horror. So, he said, falling into step beside her. Suicide mission, huh? Bold choice. It's not suicide if I succeed. You know what's worse than a suicide mission? Milo's tone was too light, the way it always got when he was terrified. A suicide mission where you forget to pack snacks. Because dying on an empty stomach? That's just poor planning, Cece. Despite everything, she almost smiled. I'll pack extra. Dried meat? Or are we talking cheese situation? Milo? Right. Serious moment. You're going to seduce and murder the most dangerous wolf alive. No big deal. Just another Tuesday for Cecilia Maddox, professional badass and terrible friend who's going to get herself killed and leave me with no one to appreciate my comedy genius. This time she did smile, brief and bright. I'll be careful. You'd better be. I've already invested years in this friendship. The returns have been minimal, but I'm committed to the long game. She squeezed his shoulder as they passed the elder's garden. Freya Aguilar sat among the moonflowers, ancient eyes tracking their movement. The old wolf beckoned. Cecilia, a word. Milo made himself scarce with exaggerated stealth. Freya's weathered hand caught Cecilia's wrist, surprisingly strong. I know what Kamari asks of you, child, and I offer this warning freely. Her eyes were deep, knowing. Beware of making a man your mission. You might discover he's your destiny instead. Cecilia pulled away gently. My destiny is to protect this pack, whatever that requires. Perhaps. Freya released her. But destiny has a cruel sense of humor. Remember that, when the moment comes. Walking back to her quarters, Cecilia pushed the unease down deep. Freya was old, prone to cryptic warnings that rarely meant anything concrete. This was simple, straightforward. Infiltrate, seduce, kill, save innocence. She'd been forged for this. Kamari had made sure of it. The doubt that whispered in her chest, small, persistent, she buried under layers of determination and duty. She had 6 months to prepare, and she would not fail. Chapter 2. Cecilia returned the next night because running would mean death, and staying might mean the same, but at least she'd see it coming. The guards at the fortress gate recognized her, which meant Maverick had given orders. They stepped aside without question, and that terrified her more than if they'd drawn weapons. He was expecting her. Waiting. Playing with his prey. She found him in the great hall, seated at the head of a long table carved from ancient oak. Firelight caught the sharp planes of his face, turned his eyes to molten gold. He didn't look surprised. He looked satisfied. You're either very brave or very foolish to return, he said, voice carrying easily across the space. Cecilia had practiced this, rehearsed every word, every gesture. She dropped into a graceful bow, let her hair fall forward to hide the pulse hammering in her throat. I was overwhelmed by your presence, Alpha King. Forgive my rudeness last night. I've come to make amends. Silence stretched. Then his low chuckle, dark as midnight. Liar. He rose, moving with that terrible, fluid grace. But I'll enjoy discovering what you're hiding. Her stomach dropped. Before she could respond, a woman appeared from the shadows. Tall, beautiful, with auburn hair and eyes like green fire. Vienna Kelly. Cecilia recognized her from the intelligence reports. Maverick. Vienna's hand landed possessively on his arm. Who is this? A guest, Maverick said, not looking away from Cecilia. She'll be staying in the East Wing, near my chambers. Vienna's smile turned venomous. Cecilia's mind raced. Near his chambers. Close enough to complete the mission, or close enough to be watched constantly. Trap or temptation? Both, she realized. Definitely both. How generous, Vienna purred. Though I wonder if our guest understands the dangers of sleeping so close to a predator. I'm sure she'll manage. A massive man emerged from the adjoining room. Caden Birch, the beta. His grin was wolf wild. She's got fire, Mav. Might actually be entertaining. Behind him, Raoul Lin leaned against the doorframe, silent and watchful. The enforcer's dark eyes tracked her every movement, cataloging, assessing. Join us for dinner, Maverick said. It wasn't a request. The meal was exquisite torture. She sat 3 seats from Maverick, close enough to feel his presence like heat against her skin. Vienna positioned herself directly across, radiating hostility with every breath. Caden kept up a running commentary that would have been funny if Cecilia's nerves weren't screaming. Raoul watched. Always watching. So, Maverick said, what brings a wolf of your talents to my territory? Curiosity, she lied smoothly. And opportunity. Curious about what, exactly? Whether the stories are true. His smile was blade sharp. Which stories? There are so many. The ones that say you're a monster. Vienna gasped. Caden's laughter cut off abruptly. Raoul's hand moved toward his blade. But Maverick's smile widened. And? What's your assessment? Cecilia met his eyes, let the challenge show. Still gathering evidence. Take all the time you need. He raised his glass in mock salute. I'm a patient hunter. After dinner, Vienna cornered her in the corridor outside her new chambers. He's mine, she hissed, crowding close. Whatever you think you're doing, whatever game you're playing, you won't succeed. I've been by his side for 3 years. You're just another pretty face that won't last the week. Cecilia forced calm into her voice. I'm not here for him. Then you're a worse liar than I thought. Vienna's laugh was bitter. I can smell it on you. Want, fear, desperation. You want him, and you hate yourself for it. She swept away, leaving Cecilia alone with the truth she'd been trying to ignore. Inside her chamber, she released the messenger crow with shaking hands. The note was brief. In position. He suspects something but hasn't moved against me. We'll proceed as planned. She didn't mention the mate bond. Didn't mention how her wolf had been howling since the moment she'd entered the fortress, clawing at her control, demanding she go to him. Didn't mention how Vienna's accusation had landed like a blade between her ribs. You want him. No, she couldn't, wouldn't. But as she lay sleepless in the dark, separated from Maverick by only 2 walls and a corridor, her wolf paced restlessly. And Cecilia pressed her fist against her mouth to keep from screaming at the unfairness of it all. That fate would make her mate the one man she was sworn to destroy. Chapter 3. Cecilia began mapping the fortress at dawn, when most wolves still slept off the previous night's revelry. She moved through corridors with practiced stealth, memorizing exits, weapon caches, guard rotations. everything Kamari would need for the invasion that would follow Maverick's death. The lower levels were her target. Intelligence suggested he kept prisoners there, wolves who'd opposed him, locked away to rot. She needed evidence, proof of his cruelty to carry back alongside his corpse. The stone stairway spiraled down into torchlit darkness. She expected cells, chains, the stench of despair. Instead, she heard laughter. Cecilia froze at the archway, staring. The vast chamber had been transformed into something impossible. Living quarters with clean bedding, a cooking fire, children playing with wooden toys while Omega wolves mended clothes and shared quiet conversation. Sunlight streamed through high windows she hadn't noticed from outside. This was the dungeon? "Uncle Mav!" A small voice squealed in delight. "You're early!" Maverick emerged from a side room, and Cecilia pressed herself into the shadows. He knelt as a young girl, no more than 6, launched herself into his arms. The fierce Alpha King caught her gently, settling her on his knee. "I promised to help with your letters, didn't I, Kamaya?" His voice was soft in a way Cecilia had never heard. "Show me what you've learned." The child produced a slate covered in careful marks. Maverick praised each letter, corrected her grip on the chalk with infinite patience. Around them, other children gathered, and he greeted each by name, knew their stories, their fears, their small triumphs. This wasn't a conqueror. This was remarkable, isn't he? Cecilia spun. An elderly woman stood behind her, silver-haired and sharp-eyed. London Strickland, if the intelligence was accurate. I didn't mean to intrude." "Of course you did. You're gathering information. It's what spies do." London's smile held no judgment. "But perhaps not the information you expected?" "Kamari said he imprisoned—" "Kamari says many things." London gestured toward the children. "These little ones? Orphaned when their villages became battlegrounds. Rogue strongholds, using pups as shields against retaliation. Maverick dismantled the strongholds and saved every innocent he could find. This dungeon protects them while we search for surviving family." No, that wasn't right. Kamari had shown her reports, survivor testimonies. "Those villages were peaceful," Cecilia whispered. "He burned them, slaughtered—" "He ended rogue operations that were trafficking children and bleeding territories dry." London's voice was firm, but not unkind. "War is never clean, girl. But Maverick fights to protect, not destroy. Perhaps your Kamari neglected to mention that the peaceful villages were purchasing stolen pups?" The floor tilted beneath Cecilia's feet. No, Kamari wouldn't lie. She wouldn't. She fled upward, needing air, needing space to think. The corridor was blessedly empty until it wasn't. She turned a corner and collided with solid muscle and heat. Maverick's hands caught her waist, steadying her. The world exploded. Electricity arced between them, white-hot and devastating. Her wolf surged forward with a howl of recognition that nearly dropped her to her knees. Every nerve ending ignited. Her skin felt too tight, burning where his fingers pressed against her ribs. Maverick made a sound between a gasp and a growl, his grip tightening convulsively. His eyes blazed amber bright, wolf surfacing. "What is this?" Cecilia managed, though speaking felt like dragging words through broken glass. "You know what this is." His voice was wrecked, raw. The space between them crackled with power that made her teeth ache. The mate bond. Undeniable. Absolute. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the desperate need flooding her system. To get closer. To touch more. to surrender to the pull dragging her toward him like gravity itself had reorganized around his existence. Maverick released her as though she'd burned him, stepping back with visible effort. His chest heaved. A muscle jumped in his jaw. "Stay away from me, little spy." The words were ground out, each one clearly costing him. "You know," she whispered. "You've known since the moment you entered my chamber, with murder in your eyes, and a blade against your thigh." His smile was bitter. "Yes, I know." "Then why haven't you—" "Killed you?" He laughed, the sound empty. "Because apparently fate has a vicious sense of humor. Now go. Before I do something we'll both regret." He walked away, rigid with control. Cecilia stood in the empty corridor, trembling. Everything she'd believed was cracking apart. Kamari's stories, her mission, her certainty, and the most terrifying realization of all. Maverick knew she was here to kill him, and he was protecting her anyway. Why? Chapter 4. The full moon rose blood-red over the forest, and every wolf in the fortress felt the call singing through their veins. Cecilia had planned to avoid the hunt, planned to claim illness, injury, anything to stay away from Maverick under the moon's power. But Caden appeared at her door with an apologetic grin. "Alpha's orders. Everyone runs tonight. No exceptions." So she found herself at the forest's edge as twilight bled into darkness, surrounded by wolves already beginning to shift. Her skin prickled with anticipation. Her wolf clawed at her control, desperate for freedom. And somewhere in the gathering pack, she felt him. Maverick's presence pulled at her like a tide. She tried to position herself far from him, ran in the opposite direction the moment the shift began. But wolves don't work that way. Her wolf burst free with a joy she'd never felt before, pure, wild, untainted by human lies and complicated loyalties. 4 paws hit the earth, and she was running, the forest a blur of silver moonlight and shadow. Then she caught his scent. Her wolf skidded to a halt, every sense locking onto him. He emerged from the underbrush like a creature from ancient legends, massive, silver-black, beautiful and terrifying. His amber eyes found hers and the world stopped. Her wolf bowed. Not submission, recognition. He approached slowly, each step deliberate. Circled her once, scenting, learning. When he pressed his muzzle against her neck, the touch sent lightning down her spine. Her wolf's answering whine was pure contentment. Then he took off running, and instinct drove her after him. They moved through the forest like they'd hunted together for years. He led, she flanked. When he drove prey left, she was already there. An elk burst from cover, and they worked in perfect synchronization. Her speed, his power, absolute unity. The kill was clean. Wolf Maverick was playful in a way human Maverick never allowed himself to be. He nudged her toward the best portions of meat, play-bowed when she growled at him for hovering, nipped gently at her ears when she tried to wander too far from his side. Protective, reverent, like she was something precious. When the hunt ended and dawn threatened, they shifted back to human form in a small clearing. Cecilia's body reformed with a gasp, and suddenly she was achingly aware of skin against skin, his heat surrounding her. Maverick knelt beside her, breathing hard. His hand trembled as it moved toward her face, hesitated. "May I?" His voice was rough gravel. She nodded, not trusting words. His fingers slid into her hair, gentle despite their calluses. He leaned closer until their foreheads touched, until they were breathing each other, until the space between them felt charged with electricity and inevitability. "This is dangerous," he whispered against her lips. I know. You're going to destroy me. I know. His mouth was a breath away from hers when Vienna's shrill voice shattered the moment. Alpha King! The packle rumbled through his chest! He pulled back slowly, reluctantly, his eyes promising this wasn't finished. We're not done, he said. Then he was gone, leaving Cecilia trembling in the dawn light. She barely made it back to the fortress before Milo intercepted her, eyes dancing with unholy glee. So, he said, falling into step beside her. I may have witnessed something interesting on my way here, something involving you and a certain Alpha King looking extremely cozy in the forest. Very naked. Very close. Very almost kissing. Milo. So let me get this straight. He was grinning like a fool. You're trying to kill your mate? That's your strategy? Because I have to say, Cece, that's bold. Unprecedented. Possibly the worst plan in the history of terrible plans. He's not... I don't... She couldn't finish any sentence. Oh, honey, you've got it bad. Milo's expression shifted to something closer to concern. What are you going to do? I don't know. The admission felt like defeat. You could try not murdering him? Just a thought. Radical, I know, but... Kamari isn't the one who has to live with the consequences. Milo caught her arm, his voice dropping. You are. And I've never seen you look at anyone the way you looked at him last night. Like he was the answer to a question you didn't know you were asking. Cecilia pulled away. It doesn't matter what I feel. The mission is going to kill you both. Milo's usual humor was gone. Choose carefully, Cece. Some choices you can't come back from. He left her in the corridor, drowning in confusion, and the lingering sensation of Maverick's touch, still burning on her skin. Chapter 5. Sleep was impossible. Cecilia gave up trying at midnight and slipped from her chambers, seeking air that didn't smell like him, space that didn't pulse with the phantom sensation of his touch. She found the battlements empty, or thought she had, until movement caught her eye. Maverick stood at the far edge, silhouetted against the star-scattered sky. He didn't turn, but she knew he'd sensed her, knew she should leave. Instead, her feet carried her forward. Can't sleep either? His voice was quiet, stripped of its usual command. No. The mate bond? He glanced at her then, and in the moonlight his expression was raw, unguarded. It gets worse before it gets better, especially when you're fighting it. She should deny it, maintain the pretense, but standing here in the dark, exhausted by lies, she found she couldn't. How long have you known? That you're my mate? The moment you crossed my threshold. His laugh was soft, bitter. Fate's cruelest joke. The woman sent to kill me, and my wolf screams that she's mine. I'm sorry. Are you? He turned fully to face her. Or are you just sorry it complicates your mission? The words stung, because they should have been true. A week ago they would have been. But now... I'm sorry you've been betrayed before. She moved closer, drawn despite herself. That someone made you think you couldn't trust what you feel. His expression shifted. Surprise, then something darker. Pain. How do you know about Adeline? I don't, but I can see it in the way you look at me, like you're waiting for the blade. Silence stretched between them. Then Maverick leaned against the stone parapet, suddenly looking exhausted. She was beautiful, charming.
She looked at me like I was worth something beyond my title.
His voice was distant, remembering.
Spent 2 years by my side. Shared my bed, my secrets, my trust. Then one night, she put wolfsbane in my wine.
Cecilia's breath caught.
I woke up 3 days later. Kaden had found me seizing, foam on my lips, organs shutting down. She was gone, along with maps of our defenses and a list of every wolf loyal to me.
He met Cecilia's eyes.
Turns out she'd been working for a rival pack the entire time. Everything was a lie.
Maverick.
She looked at me the way you do.
His voice cracked.
I wanted to believe her. It nearly cost me everything.
Cecilia's hands shook. Her eyes burned with tears she couldn't stop. Because she was doing the same thing. Worse, because Adolin hadn't been his mate. Hadn't felt the soul-deep pull that made deception feel like self-mutilation. I'm sorry that happened to you. The words were inadequate, but they were true.
Are you?
His bitter laugh cut deep.
Or are you taking notes, learning from her mistakes?
I would never. A tear slipped free, then another. Maverick went still. Then he moved, crossing the space between them. His thumb caught the tear on her cheek, his touch impossibly gentle.
Then what are you doing here, Cecilia?
His voice was rough with something that sounded like hope and terror combined.
Why did you come to my chamber that first night? And why didn't you complete whatever you came to do?
Her heart hammered. The truth was right there, desperate to break free. Because you're my mate. Because my wolf recognized you, and I can't fight this anymore. Because Kamari lied, and I don't know who I am without her lies holding me together. The alarm horn split the night. They both spun toward the sound. Shouts erupted from below, the clash of steel, snarls that raised every hair on Cecilia's body.
Rogues at the north border!
Maverick was already moving, transformation from vulnerable to warrior instantaneous.
Stay here. Lock yourself in your chambers.
Like hell! He turned back, eyes flashing.
Cecilia!
I can fight. You know I can. For a moment, she thought he'd argue. Then he nodded sharply.
Stay close to Kaden. Don't take unnecessary risks.
His hand caught her wrist, squeezed once.
And stay alive. We're not done with this conversation.
Then he was gone, vaulting over the parapet to land on the courtyard stones below. His shift rippled through him before he hit the ground, and the massive silver-black wolf raced toward the sounds of battle. Cecilia ran for the armory, her mind reeling. She'd been seconds from confession, seconds from destroying everything or saving it. She still didn't know which. But as she grabbed weapons and rushed toward the north gate, one truth crystallized with perfect clarity. She couldn't kill him. Couldn't even imagine it anymore. And that meant everything was about to fall apart. Chapter 6. The rogues hit hard and fast, a coordinated strike that spoke of planning rather than opportunistic violence. Cecilia reached the north gate as the first wave crashed against the defenders. She moved like death itself, all grace and precision. Kamari's brutal training transformed into lethal efficiency. Blade work that opened throats, footwork that kept her inside their guard, instincts that read attacks before they landed. A rogue lunged and she sidestepped, drove her knife under his ribs, was already moving toward the next threat before he hit the ground. Across the chaos, she felt Maverick's presence, saw him tear through enemies with calculated fury, protecting his wolves, driving the rogues back. Then she heard the scream. Keegan Melton, the young wolf she'd seen training in the courtyard, was pinned against the wall by two massive rogues. Terror widened his eyes as claws drew back for a killing strike. Cecilia didn't think. She launched herself between them. "Get behind me!" Her blade caught the first rogue across the face. The second's claws raked across her ribs before she could dodge, tearing through leather and skin. Pain exploded white hot. She stumbled but didn't fall, driving her knife into his throat as he pressed forward. Both rogues dropped. Keegan was safe, staring at her with awe and horror. "Run!" she gasped. "Get to—" A roar shook the battlefield. Cecilia turned to see Maverick's wolf charging toward her, amber eyes blazing with something beyond rage. He shifted mid-run, hitting the ground in human form, already reaching for her. "Cecilia!" "I'm fine. It's not—" Her knees buckled. His arms caught her before she fell. "Like hell you're fine." His voice was raw. Blood soaked through her side, more than she'd realized. "Medical tent, now." "I can walk." He was already carrying her, moving through the thinning battle with single-minded focus. She wanted to protest, but the world tilted dangerously, and his heartbeat under her ear was the only thing that felt real. The medical tent smelled of herbs and blood. Maverick set her on a cot with unexpected gentleness, already barking orders for supplies. His hand shook as he cut away her ruined tunic. "This is going to hurt." "I've had worse." His eyes met hers, dark with something that looked like pain. "I know. That's what terrifies me." He cleaned the wound with careful efficiency, his touch impossibly tender for such dangerous hands. Cecilia watched his face, the fierce concentration, the muscle jumping in his jaw every time she flinched. "You fight like someone who has everything to prove," he said quietly. "Maybe I do." "To who? Them?" He gestured toward the world beyond the tent. "Or yourself?" The question landed like a blade between her ribs. Before she could answer, raised voices erupted outside. Vienna's voice carried clearly. "I'm telling you, she appeared right before the attack. Convenient timing, don't you think? What if she let them through?" Maverick's expression went deadly cold. He finished binding Cecilia's wound and stalked outside. She followed despite the pain, unwilling to let him fight this battle alone. The pack had gathered, still bloodied from the fight. Vienna stood at the center, beautiful and venomous. "She's a stranger," Vienna continued. "We know nothing about her, yet she has access to—" "Enough." Maverick's voice cracked like a whip. The pack fell silent. "Cecilia saved 3 lives today. I watched her put herself between Keegan and certain death. She bled for this pack. You will show her respect, or you will answer to me." Vienna's face flushed with fury, but she bowed her head. Later, in the quiet aftermath, Maverick found Cecilia on the battlements again. Their place, apparently. "You shouldn't be walking," he said. "You shouldn't worry so much." "Can't help it." He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. "When I saw that rogue's claws tear into you, His hand rose to her face, trembling. "I can't lose you, even knowing what you are, what you came here to do. I can't." "Maverick." His mouth crashed into hers like a man starving, and she was already burning alive. The kiss was desperate, claiming, tasting of blood and battle, and something too enormous to name. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and his growl of approval vibrated through her chest. When they finally broke apart, both shaking, his forehead pressed to hers. "This can't happen," she whispered. "Too late." His thumb traced her jaw. "It already has." Chapter 7. The archives were supposedly off-limits, but Cecilia had picked locks since childhood. She told herself she was looking for intelligence to send Kamari. Weaknesses, guard rotations, supply chains. She told herself she wasn't looking for proof that everything London said was true. The correspondence was filed under territorial disputes, innocuous enough. She almost missed it. A folder marked with Moonstone's seal, pushed to the back of a dusty shelf. Her hand shook as she opened it. The first letter was dated 3 years ago. Kamari's handwriting, unmistakable. A proposal to the Eastern Council about disputed territories that Cecilia knew for fact had never been disputed. Fabricated claims about Maverick's pack encroaching on neutral ground. The second letter included testimony from survivors of his attacks. Cecilia read their names and her blood went cold. She knew these wolves, had trained with some of them. They'd never left Moonstone territory, let alone survived Maverick's raids. They were lies. All of it. Her hands went numb. No, this can't be real. She kept reading because she had to know. Because part of her was still desperate for an explanation that would make this make sense. A military strategy document outlined provocation tactics, staged attacks on Moonstone's outer settlements that would be blamed on Maverick's forces. Create the narrative. Build the case for retaliation. Then she found the letter that shattered her completely. Kamari's private correspondence to her second-in-command, dated 2 weeks before Cecilia's deployment. The girl is expendable. Her mission serves 2 purposes: eliminate the Alpha King if successful, or provide justification for full-scale invasion when she fails and is executed. Either outcome advances our position. Use her and dispose. Cecilia's vision blurred. The paper slipped from her nerveless fingers. Expendable. Use her and dispose. I was going to die for a lie. The words came out broken, barely audible. She was going to let me die. She wanted me to die. The room spun. 16 years. 16 years of believing Kamari saved her out of kindness, of thinking she owed a debt of gratitude, of training herself into a weapon because she thought she was protecting innocence. And all of it, every moment, every sacrifice, every doubt she'd buried, was a manipulation. Cecilia made it to her chamber before the sobs tore free. She collapsed against the door, sliding down until she hit the floor. Everything she'd believed, everything she'd been, crumbled to ash. She didn't hear Maverick approach, didn't hear the door open, only knew he was there when strong arms wrapped around her, lifting her, carrying her to the bed. Breathe, little wolf. His voice was rough but gentle. Just breathe. She couldn't. The grief was drowning her, rage and betrayal and horror choking off air. Her hands fisted in his shirt, clinging to the only solid thing in a world gone to pieces. I don't know what's real anymore. The confession tore out of her. Everything I believed, everyone I trusted. It's all lies. No. His hand stroked her hair, patient and steady. No. How can you? She pulled back to look at him, vision swimming. How can you be kind to me? You know what I am, what I came here to do. I know what they tried to make you. His thumb caught her tears. I also know what you chose to be instead. I don't even know who that is. Then figure it out. His arms tightened around her. But you don't have to do it alone. The temptation to confess everything was overwhelming. To tell him about Kamari's orders, the fabricated evidence, the invasion plans. To lay it all at his feet and beg for forgiveness she didn't deserve. But the words stuck in her throat. Because confessing meant admitting she'd been a fool, meant facing the full weight of what she'd almost done, meant trusting him with everything when she'd just learned the cost of misplaced trust. Whatever you're carrying, Maverick said quietly, whatever burden you think you have to bear alone, let me help. Let me carry some of it. I can't. Her voice broke. Not yet. Then when you can, I'll be here. His promise was fierce, absolute. But Cecilia, hear me. I am real. This. He pressed his hand over her heart, then his own. Is real. Whatever else is happening, whatever lies you've been told, what we have is truth. She buried her face in his chest and let herself believe him. Just for tonight. Just for these stolen moments before everything fell apart. Because it would fall apart. The letters proved it. Kamari was coming. And when she did, Cecilia would have to choose. Chapter 8. The Lunar Festival transformed the fortress into something magical. Torches blazed against the night sky. Music spilled from every corner. Visiting packs brought gifts and stories, and for one night, old grievances were set aside in favor of celebration. Cecilia found herself swept into dancing with wolves who days ago had viewed her with suspicion. Keegan's mother hugged her, tearful with gratitude. Caden spun her in a ridiculous twirl that made her genuinely laugh. Even Raoul's stern expression softened into something approaching approval. For the first time since arriving, she felt like she belonged. Then the messenger crow arrived. Cecilia's blood turned to ice reading the note. Kamari would arrive by nightfall, as an honored guest for the festival. Diplomatic relations between packs, a show of unity, a trap. She found Maverick in his chambers, and the words tumbled out before she could stop them. Kamari's coming. Tonight. He went very still. The one who sent you? Yes. She couldn't meet his eyes. She'll expect a report. Expect me to... Her voice broke. I don't know what to do. Maverick crossed to her, tilted her chin up with gentle fingers. Then don't do it alone. His expression was fierce, determined. Stand with me tonight. Not as a spy or a stranger. As mine. Her heart stuttered. Maverick. I know what I'm asking. I know it's complicated and dangerous, and possibly insane. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But I'm done pretending. I want you beside me. Publicly. As my chosen mate. The word hung between them. Mate. Not just acknowledged in private, but declared before the packs. She'll know, Cecilia whispered. The moment she sees us together, she'll know I failed. Good. His smile was predatory. Let her know. But when Kamari arrived with her entourage, Cecilia's courage faltered. The woman who'd raised her moved through the crowd with practiced grace, accepting welcome from Maverick with diplomatic warmth. Her eyes found Cecilia's across the hall, and the message in them was clear. Report. Now. Cecilia excused herself, met Kamari in a side chamber. My dear child. Kamari's embrace was brief, cold. Have you completed your task? I'm working on it. He's suspicious. I need more time. Kamari's expression hardened. Time we may not have. You've been here weeks. Surely you found an opening? Before Cecilia could answer, Vienna appeared in the doorway, her smile vicious. She's been fucking the target, Kamari. Vienna's voice dripped poison. Rolling around with him like a bitch in heat. She's useless. Kamari's eyes went cold. Is this true? I'm gathering intelligence. You're compromised. Kamari's disgust was palpable. I should have known better than to trust an orphan stray with real work. The words hit like blades, but beneath the pain, rage kindled. "Then I guess you'll have to handle it yourself," Cecilia said quietly. Kamari's smile was terrifying. "I intend to." The attack began during the feast. One moment, celebration. The next, chaos. Moonstone wolves drawing hidden weapons, silver blades glinting. Visiting packs scattered, screaming. Maverick's wolves scrambled for arms. Cecilia saw Kamari moving toward Maverick through the confusion, saw the poisoned blade in her hand, saw the opening as he turned to protect a falling elder. "No!" She launched herself forward, but Vienna was faster, tripping her. Cecilia hit the ground hard as Kamari's blade found Maverick's side, sinking deep between his ribs. His roar of pain shattered something in Cecilia's chest. She shifted mid-rise, her wolf exploding free with a fury that made the air crackle. Launched at Kamari with every ounce of strength and rage and betrayal burning in her veins. "He's my mate!" The words tore from her throat, human speech from wolf jaws. "And you lied!" They collided in a tangle of claws and teeth. Kamari shifted, met her attack with brutal efficiency. But Cecilia fought with something beyond training. Fought with heartbreak and love and savage protectiveness. Around them, full battle erupted. Maverick's pack against Moonstone wolves. Kaden and Raoul cut through enemies toward their fallen alpha. Vienna revealed herself, fighting alongside Kamari's forces. Cecilia felt the moment Maverick struggled to his feet, poison burning through his system. Felt his shock ripple through the mate bond. She drove Kamari back, giving Maverick's wolves space to regroup. Her jaws found Kamari's shoulder, tore deep. The woman who'd raised her screamed. "You used me!" Cecilia shifted back to human, bloodied and shaking. "You are going to let me die for your throne, for your territory. I was 8 years old, and you made me a weapon." Kamari's laugh was bitter. "You were always a weapon, child. Just a poorly aimed one." The battle turned. Maverick's pack, defending their home and their alpha, fought with coordinated fury. Moonstone wolves began falling back. Vienna went down under Raoul's blade. Kamari, wounded and seeing defeat, retreated with her remaining forces. The silence after was deafening. Cecilia stood in the center of the destroyed hall, covered in blood. Hers, Kamari's, others. Maverick leaned heavily against Kaden, silver poisoning making him pale and shaking. His eyes found hers across the wreckage. "You." His voice was rough with pain and something that might have been betrayal. "You were sent to kill me." Tears burned her eyes. "Yes." "That's why you came to my chamber that first night." "Yes." She moved toward him on trembling legs. "But I can't. I won't. Even if it kills me, even if you hate me, I can't hurt you." "Why?" The question was barely a whisper. "Because you're my mate." Her voice broke. "And because everything I believed was a lie. But this..." She pressed her hand to her heart, then reached toward him. "This is real." Chapter 9. They locked Cecilia in the lower chambers. Not the sanctuary where children played, but actual cells carved from ancient stone. She didn't fight. Didn't argue when Raoul fastened silver-laced chains around her wrists. She'd earned this. Deserved worse. Maverick had survived, barely. She'd heard that much before they dragged her away. The healers worked through the night, fighting the silver poisoning. She pressed her hand to the mate bond and felt him there, weak, flickering, but alive. That was enough. It had to be. 3 days passed in darkness. Then Freya appeared, moving through shadows like a ghost. "Fate is rarely kind, but always just, child." The elder's weathered hand touched Cecilia's cheek. "Have faith." In what? I'm a traitor. I was sent to kill their alpha. You were sent to kill a monster. Instead, you found your mate and saved his life. Freya's smile was knowing. The pack will decide. Trust in truth. The trial convened on the 4th day. They hauled Cecilia before the assembled pack, still chained, and she saw the faces she'd fought beside now twisted with anger and betrayal. Keegan's mother wouldn't meet her eyes. The children she'd played with hid behind their guardians. Only Caden and Raoul stood apart, expressions grim but not condemning. Cecilia Maddox, the eldest council member began, you stand accused of espionage, conspiracy to commit murder, and treason against this pack. How do you answer? She could lie, twist the truth, but she was done with lies. Guilty. Her voice rang clear. I came to this fortress to kill Maverick Lozano. I was raised by Kamari Rivera, trained as an assassin, and sent here with a silver blade and orders to end the Alpha King's life. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even those who'd suspected hadn't wanted it confirmed. But I didn't complete my mission. Not because I'm weak. Not because I failed. She lifted her chin, met their eyes. Because the moment I saw him, I knew I couldn't. Because he's my fated mate. Because everything I'd been told about him was a lie. Convenient, someone shouted. Claims the mate bond after she's caught. I claim nothing I haven't bled for. Cecilia's voice cracked. I fought beside you against my own pack. I threw myself between Kamari's blade and your alpha. I chose truth over the only family I've ever known. If that's not enough, then kill me. But don't you dare call me a liar. Before anyone could respond, the doors slammed open. Maverick stood in the entrance, still pale, one hand pressed to his bandaged side. The pack fell silent. Enough. His voice was weak but commanded absolute attention. He moved slowly toward Cecilia, each step clearly costing him. Alpha, you should be resting, Caden started. I'll rest when this is finished. Maverick stopped before Cecilia, his amber eyes searching her face. She had every reason to complete her mission. She had the means, the opportunity, access to my chambers while I slept. She could have ended me a dozen times over. He turned to face the pack. She chose mercy. She chose truth. She chose me, knowing it would destroy everything she'd been raised to believe. His hand found Cecilia's face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. She is my fated mate. She chose me over her pack, truth over lies. She saved my life. She is innocent. She's a spy, someone yelled. She was a spy. Maverick's voice hardened. Now she's my mate, my chosen queen. And I will hear no more debate on this. Caden stepped forward. She saved 3 lives during the rogue attack, including Keegan. Raoul nodded. She fought like a demon during the Lunar Festival, took down 5 Moonstone wolves protecting our people. Then Milo pushed through the crowd, carrying a leather satchel. I've brought testimony from Moonstone refugees who fled Kamari's rule. Evidence of the fabricated massacre claims. Proof that everything Cecilia was told was manipulation. He spread documents across the council table. The same letters Cecilia had found, plus more. Testimonies from wolves who'd escaped Kamari's regime. The truth, laid bare. The pack murmured, passing documents, seeing the deception. Finally, Keegan's mother spoke. She saved my son. Took claws meant for him. That's worth something. Others nodded. The tide shifted. The eldest council member looked at Maverick. If you claim her as mate, I do. Then by pack law, she is one of us. He turned to Cecilia. You are found innocent of crimes against this pack. The chains will be removed. Raoul unlocked the silver shackles. Cecilia's knees buckled, but Maverick caught her, pulled her against his chest. You are the bravest wolf I have ever known, he whispered into her hair. The mating ceremony was held under the full moon, ancient and sacred. Cecilia wore white, simple and beautiful. Maverick stood before her in ceremonial leather, looking at her like she was his salvation. The pack elder spoke the old words, binding them before witnesses and moon. When Maverick took her hand, the mate bond flared so bright it stole her breath. I claim you, he said, my mate, my queen, my heart. I claim you, she answered, my mate, my king, my home. The claiming bite came simultaneously, his teeth sinking into the junction of her neck and shoulder as hers found his. Pain and pleasure and completion crashed through them both. The bond locked into place, absolute and unbreakable. The pack's howl of acceptance shook the night sky. In his chambers later, Maverick undressed her with trembling hands, reverent and hungry. Their coupling was fierce and tender, claiming and surrender, two souls finally finding completion. I love you, she gasped as he moved inside her, his forehead pressed to hers. I love you, he groaned, the words torn from someplace deep. You're everything. Everything. Afterwards, wrapped in his arms, she felt peace for the first time in her life. When you walked into my chamber that first night, I knew, Maverick confessed into the darkness. My wolf knew. I've been waiting for you to know too. I'm sorry I made you wait. You're here now. That's all that matters. Morning found them on the battlements, his arms around her, watching their pack begin the day. Cecilia leaned into his warmth, watched children playing in the courtyard, saw Caden and Raoul sparring while Milo provided terrible commentary. Home. This was home. She'd come to take a life. Instead, she found her own. My queen, Maverick murmured against her hair. My king, she answered, and smiled as the sun rose on their future. Epilogue. 6 months later, Cecilia woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and Maverick's arm heavy across her waist. She smiled, tracing the mating mark on his shoulder, perfectly healed, a mirror to her own. You're staring, he mumbled, not opening his eyes. You're beautiful. Flattery this early? What do you want? She laughed, swatting his chest. Can't I admire my mate? His eyes opened then, amber and warm. Always. He pulled her closer, nuzzling into her neck. How are you feeling? Perfect. She pressed a hand to her still flat stomach, marveling at the secret they'd confirmed just yesterday. We're perfect. His hand covered hers, reverent. Our pup. Pups, she corrected. The healer said she heard 2 heartbeats. Maverick's expression transformed. Shock, joy, terror, love all at once. Twins? Apparently you don't do anything halfway, Alpha King. His kiss was thorough and claiming, and they almost missed the council meeting entirely. The Great Hall had changed. Where Moonstone and Iron Vein banners once hung separately, now they were intertwined. A new alliance, forged in blood and truth. Refugees from Kamari's regime had integrated smoothly, bringing skills and stories that enriched both packs. Kamari herself had vanished after the Lunar Festival, hunted by wolves she'd betrayed. Rumors placed her in the far territories, broken and alone. Cecilia felt no satisfaction in it, only sad relief. Milo sat beside Freya, somehow having charmed the ancient elder into tolerating his presence. And then I said, "That's not a bear, that's my mother-in-law." He paused. Too soon? Your humor remains terrible, Freya said, but her eyes crinkled with amusement. Caden was demonstrating a new fighting technique to a group of young wolves, including Keegan, who'd appointed himself Cecilia's shadow. Raoul supervised, calling corrections in his usual deadpan. Alpha Queen. Keegan spotted her, grinning. Are you coming to training today? Not today. Maverick answered before Cecilia could. His hand settled protectively on her lower back. The Queen has other duties. Keegan's face fell until Cecilia whispered, "I'll tell you a secret later. Something exciting." His eyes widened. "Really?" "Really. Now go practice. Caden looks like he's about to make you run laps." After the meeting, Cecilia found herself on the battlements again. Their place. Maverick joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. "Everything you gave up?" "I gave up lies." She turned in his arms, cupping his face. "I found truth. Found you. Found myself." She gestured to the courtyard below, where their pack, their family, trained and laughed and lived. "I found home." "I love you." His voice was rough with emotion. "Every day, I wake up terrified this is a dream." "It's real." She pulled him down for a kiss. "We're real. And in about 7 months, we're going to be even more real when 2 tiny wolves destroy our sleep schedule." His laugh rumbled through his chest. "Can't wait." Below, Milo's voice carried up. "Are they kissing again? They're always kissing. It's disgusting." "I love it." Cecilia smiled against Maverick's lips. She'd come to his fortress a weapon aimed at his heart. Instead, he'd given her his heart, his home, his future. And standing in his arms, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and gold, Cecilia finally understood what Freya had tried to tell her all those months ago. Destiny wasn't cruel. It was patient. And it had been waiting for her all along. The end.